and why we feel like we don't have it. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Davina Maria, and I'm a master coach and founder of the Restore Yourself Method and host of Worthy Woman Facebook group. And I help female go getters in their 30s develop unshakable confidence so they can powerfully step into their limitless potential. Over to you, Joanna.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Davina. My name is Joanna Tonkin. I'm a registered psychotherapist, confidence coach, and the founder of the Confidence Formula. I work with young adults to help them improve their self-confidence so that they can become successful. Davina and I got together to create this for you because we are obsessed with all things personal development, and we strongly believe in the power of learning from one another.
And just to clarify, we are not perfect at being confident all of the time. Like you, we move through our struggles and overcome obstacles and mindsets to continuously improve. So just think of us as guides by your side.
Love that. So today's topic, where does confidence come from and why we feel like we don't have it? So let me just be the first one to tell you that when we're born, we actually have a lot of confidence. And by that I mean when we're born, we know what we feel. We know when we're hungry, we know when we're tired, we know what we need, and we are 100% dependent on our caregivers to meet that need. And so in that process, we actually lose in our ability to trust ourselves to get our needs met because a baby can't feed itself, a baby can't change its diaper, a baby can't provide shelter, right, for itself. So depending on other people to get your needs met is a very important process, but it's also a very difficult process. Why is that? Because if you give a grown-up, an adult, the ability to, let's say, control when the baby eats or control when the baby sleeps or to control when the baby feels clean by changing its diaper, the baby knows what it wants. The baby knows what it needs. And it's depending on someone else to get that need met. And it's basically like telling the baby's body that it's wrong, right? It's crying because it's hungry, but the baby's on a feeding schedule. So until that baby can get fed, the baby believes that what it feels, hunger, is actually wrong, right? And then it doesn't get its need met, and then it's a kind of like cyclical process. And so like if the baby's tired, but the baby's on a sleep schedule, the parents decide when the baby sleeps, and then it's the baby feels like it's wrong. So basically what happens from really early on is we actually lose our confidence, our ability to know and to trust what we need and to get our needs met. And then as adults or as children, we don't feel confident to make those decisions and to trust what our emotions are telling us and what our needs are telling us, right? And so we lose that ability to trust in ourselves. And that's pretty much what happens and where our confidence goes. And then, now we'll talk about where it comes from and how to rebuild that.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And I know that I kind of just always describe it to my clients like an onion. And I always say that we are like, the core of an onion, like the very center of an onion. And as we develop and, from babies into adulthood, we just pick up all the layers. So we get into adulthood and we're like a full onion. But as a baby, we would have started off with just the inner part of an onion, and we've picked up all of these things that, like you said, make us less confident because we've picked up, the opinions of other people, we've picked up the shame, the guilt, whatever it is, all of that sort of baggage gets picked up as we get older. And then, in time, if you don't deal with it, it then becomes kind of something that can really affect your confidence. I love that. I love that so much.
Totally. And kind of what you're saying is like the lack of confidence actually comes from when our inner knowing of what we need and how to get our needs met and our external world maybe don't align, right?
Yeah.
And then we feel like, who are we supposed to listen to? I've been listening to my parents, my caregivers, my friends, family, and the community my whole life. But what I want on the inside doesn't align with that. And I'm not sure really who to listen to. To listen to everyone else or to listen to what I need. And so I think, where confidence comes from is learning to know who you are, like learning what that inner knowing is saying, learning to trust that that's what's important to you, that's what you want to be doing, and then actually doing, like following through with action to do what you say that you're going to do. And I think that's
Yeah.
where confidence comes from, is knowing, trusting, and then doing what you say you're going to do can help build that internal sense of confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's not as easy as, just doing it one day. Because I feel like we have way more evidence to trust other people sometimes, because
Yeah.
you can tangibly kind of see all the examples that they've given where they've done this for you, or they've picked you up on time, or they've said that they were going to do this and they did it, or whatever. And sometimes I feel like we have all this evidence of where we can trust others, and we don't ever sit and think about the evidence that we can trust ourselves, the things that we've done, as we've become adults, to build that self-trust. And I think if you haven't done anything to build the self-trust, and that's where the kind of starting point is. But if you have, you should be able to sit down and think, you know what, I can trust myself because I've done this and I've done this and I've done that. And I've, drawn boundaries with certain people, and I've released people that I, maybe shouldn't be friends with anymore, or whatever. And I've progressed myself in my career, and or I've applied for jobs and I've got the jobs. Whatever it is, there will always be evidence of things that you've done that you can kind of point to say there are little, sources of kind of self-confidence there.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you just said kind of relates back to what I said at the beginning. Like, we inherently put our trust in other people to take care of us and to meet our needs, and we inherently take that trust and give it away. And so that when we're children or teens or even into adulthood, we're still trusting other people to make these decisions and figure out what's right for us, when they actually don't know you as well as you know yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, and I feel like as I'm listening to you, I'm getting this kind of vision of like looking out rather than looking in.
Yes.
And yeah, I feel like confidence is very much insourced, not outsourced. But I think it's completely understandable, to go back to your point about when we're babies and we have to rely on our caregivers. It's completely understandable to sometimes have the instinct to try and outsource your confidence, because as a baby you had to, for your survival. Your life kind of depended on it. So I think for anyone who kind of feels like, oh, I outsource my confidence a lot, it's completely okay. And as long as you know that that's what you're doing and you can kind of pull it back in,
yes,
it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, it is fine, it is normal, and the other side of it is dangerous. Because if you do what you want to do and you're not getting the praise, recognition, validation from the outside world, you might think that you're wrong, but really your inner knowing is telling you to do it. You're trusting yourself to do it, and you're not wrong, right? So there's like this like in and out, ebb and flow of like, who do I listen to? We listen to our parents, caregivers, families, community up until now. We're trying to learn to trust ourselves. By trusting ourselves, other people might not agree. And then what do we do? So I think, it can be really dangerous as well at, certain stages of life to listen to other people, even though they think they know what's best for you, when really they want what's best for themselves.
Yeah. And I think, if we talk about external validation and if we talk about that, I think it is lovely. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's really horrible and no one wants it. It's absolutely lovely, to have people in your family or your friends group or your partner or anybody that loves you and that you love to kind of give you that validation and say you're doing great and I'm so proud of you, and that's the right decision, and you should do this. And it's absolutely great and it feels great. But I think, I completely agree with what you're saying. It can be really damaging if you rely on it to get through life.
And to guide you to where you need to go, because you know you better than anybody else knows you.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, people, obviously we don't want to go too deep into this, but I think sometimes a lot of people kind of speak out of their own experience, their own projections, their own thoughts, their own everything. And what they are advising you or validating you could be completely wrong for you. And I completely agree with you. You know yourself better than anyone else, and I think you should be able to, if your confidence is developed, you should be able to sit and think, actually, that's really not for me, because I know me and that doesn't align with what I'm trying to do, and then kind of have the confidence to take a different path. I think I know we talk about external validation, and I know on, social media, it's everywhere, and it's always spoken about as a really negative thing. And I know that it can be a really negative thing. I also think that on some level, it can actually be positive
Mm-hmm.
on some level. And I think it can be positive um, in the sense of if you are connected to your needs, you're connected to yourself, and you are secure and confident, you will know when the validation is good for you and not good for you. And I think, they always say that you are most like the 5 people that you hang out with. If you've picked a really good bunch of 5 people and they are validating you and they are pushing you to grow and pushing you forward, and their kind of validation and their advice is in alignment with your life and what you're trying to do anyway, that can be the positive side of it, because it becomes a support rather than a crutch that you're kind of leaning on to get you through.
Yeah, and not only that, like this feeling of, let's say you're at work and you don't feel like the work that you put forward in a presentation or a project is good enough, but you get accolades from your coworkers or your manager, right? You might not feel confident and
Yeah.
capable in that situation, but other people's feedback, that external validation, can help you feel more confident in your skills and abilities. So in that way, external validation can also be really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
That is such a good tip, because I think sometimes we have that negative bias, don't we? And I think sometimes I don't know, maybe we're kind of taught that to be proud of yourself and to be confident is, arrogant, and you're full of yourself and you can't kind of hype yourself up, and you know, I think a lot of people are kind of brought up on that. Don't be too self-important, and all of that. So I think sometimes we have this false humility.
Mm-hmm.
And, we kind of go through life and we say, oh, I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at that. And, it's happened to me so many times where people have, even, in very small situations where we're doing karaoke or whatever, and they'll say, oh, I'm not very good at singing. And the minute they go up there and they sing, you think, you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You're so good. So I think that is a really good point. Sometimes people can actually see you better than yourself if you are slightly disconnected and maybe you're not quite in tune with your own needs and who you really are. People outside of you can probably see what you're really, really good at.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. And I also think that um, it really feels good with all of this to kind of be part of a tribe. I know that we've spoken about this before, and I know that it kind of goes back to kind of, biology and survival and everything, and being part of a tribe is a very good feeling. Um, but I think that that's another reason why you could really benefit from having the validation from people that are close to you, that want you to grow, or that see something that you're really good at, and they kind of push you to go for it when you don't maybe feel, you don't really feel so good about it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So I can just explain a little bit about like the background of what you're talking about, Davina, and that's the fact that you know, as human beings, we want to exist as part of a tribe. And why is this
Mm.
so? A tribe or community or group of people. Why is this so? And it's basically for safety and survival reasons. So if you think about primitive times when we lived outside and we like foraged our own food and killed our own animals and drinking the watering hole and all that stuff, if we weren't part of the tribe, we had a less likely chance of surviving, right? If someone came to attack us, we would be alone. If we were needing food and we couldn't fend for ourselves, we would probably die. If we had disease and no one was there to take care of us, we would probably die alone, right? And
Yeah.
so, why it's important to be part of the tribe, like psychologically and biologically, is because the community is actually what keeps us alive. And
Mm.
so, bring that into today's day, there are not as many of those external threats, but our body still feels like there is. And it feels like if we do what we want, what our inner self is telling us and what we know to be true and trust in ourselves, and that's not what other people around us want, that threat of being excluded from the tribe, that rejection or abandonment feels like it could be life or death,
Yeah.
right? And it's really scary. And that's why a lot of people will listen to external people versus listening to themselves a lot of the time. And that can be really um, unsatisfactory and unfulfilling for a lot of people if you're just going to listen to
Yeah.
everyone else. to be part of the tribe. And then what I think about is, you know, today's day, we don't have a lot of those physical threats like we used to. And so if the tribe that you're with, if the 5 people you spend the most time with aren't bringing you up, aren't supporting you, like find another tribe.
Yeah.
Find another group of people that, you know, fit with your ideologies and the way that you want to live your life and will bring you up and support you and trust in you, because that can be the best kind of people to surround yourself with.
Yeah, 100%. And I kind of, I think about us when you say that, because, you know, we're on opposite ends of the world and we found each other on the internet, and we have created our own kind of micro tribe, if you like, because what we're doing is in alignment with each other. And there aren't many people where I am that I could probably have this sort of relationship with. And I think sometimes, you know, social media gets a bad reputation as well because of comparison culture and everything like that. But I think it's a really good tool to find your tribe, because if you are doing something that's aligned and, you know, with your values and everything online, you are going to meet people that are similar. And yes, they might live on the opposite end of the world, but then that's the beauty these days of social media, because you can then still have a really good international tribe, if you like. So I think it kind of opens it up, doesn't it? You don't have to just have some, you know, people 5-10 minutes from where you live. You now have like a global kind of opportunity to find those people that really, really kind of align with you.
And I really also like the idea of, like, you know, the people who grew up 5 minutes from where I grew up, we probably think a lot of the same things. We have a lot of the same values. We have a lot of the same beliefs. And then meeting people from other parts of the world can just change the way that, like, wow, I don't have to live this way. I don't have to think this way. That's not the only way that people live and think and exist.
Yeah.
And then you can start to experiment with your confidence in that way.
Yeah, and I think that really does build your confidence as well, because it's challenging. It's challenging what you think you know. And, you know, at the beginning of this episode, we spoke about kind of babies and, you know, onions and things. And I think sometimes the challenging is shedding those layers. You know, it's sometimes the challenging is the releasing of, like you said, I don't have to believe this. I don't have to think this. I don't have to, you know, this is not the only way to do it. So I think kind of exposing yourself to other people who are actually going to, like you said, build you up and help you grow is one of the best ways to kind of use the external validation as a strength rather than something that's kind of detrimental to your confidence.
So let's sum it up for our viewers, Davina. Where does confidence come from, and why do we feel like we don't have it?
Well, the simplest answer I can give is confidence is insourced, it is inside you. And why you feel like you don't have it is because you're disconnected from that and you're kind of outsourcing it. That's for me, that's like the easiest way of kind of summarizing.
Yeah. And then how then do we reconnect? What do we need to do in order to connect to that?
Do you know what? I have a long list of things, because, you know, for me, like that is part of like my whole program, like reconnecting to yourself. And I think, you know, there's so many things you can do, which we will obviously discuss in future episodes. But a couple of things are self-care. And in part of self-care, I would say just be with yourself, you know, do stuff with you, and don't always kind of rely on people outside of you. I think sometimes there's a lot to be said for just being with yourself and figuring out what you like and what you don't like, and the people that you want to hang around with and the people that you don't. And I think just knowing that as a foundation will set you up, because you will then naturally attract the people that you want to be around. And the more self-care you do, the more your cup is full to be the best person that you can be, which is naturally going to elevate your confidence anyway.
Totally. I think spending time alone is so important to that journey, because I know as a people pleaser in recovery that, you know, my whole life was about pleasing other people and doing what they wanted and trying to appease, you know, everyone in the room in every situation. Yeah. And it wasn't until I spent some time alone. I was traveling. I was fortunate enough to do that. But, you know, just spending some time, like have like a day trip around your city by yourself, or go to a restaurant by yourself, or a movie by yourself, and make all the decisions by yourself. right?
Yeah.
Decide where you're going to go and what you're going to eat and what you're going to do and who you're going to talk to and who you're not going to talk to. And I think by making those decisions, you're really connecting with that part of you that wants what you want versus doing what
Yeah,
everyone else wants.
100%. And I, just to add on to that, I think when you make decisions and, when you're out and about on your own and you're experiencing all of these things, I think it's really key to listen to your intuition. Like if your intuition is telling you something, don't question it, just kind of go with it, listen to it. And that is another quick way of kind of building your confidence, because the more you trust yourself, listen to your intuition, even if you don't understand why it's telling you what it's telling you, I think you'll get to a point where you'll think, actually, yeah, these decisions that I'm making are good, because the evidence will show you in the people that you're hanging around with, or the places that you're going, or the opportunities that are kind of coming up for you. And I think it just builds the self-trust so much.
Absolutely.
I love
Awesome.
it. Absolutely love it. It's been so great chatting with you on this topic, and I know that we're going to be back in 2 weeks' time. So for more information on who we are, what we do, and our love of all things confidence and self-development, you can find or follow us from our social media information, which will be posted below in the comments. And if you've liked what you've heard, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. Thank you so much, and see you in 2 weeks.